Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lori Clark Show. I am really excited to be here, and I have something that I'd like to share with you. I have been asking myself this question for a couple days now, only a couple days. Actually, it was yesterday, so not even a couple days. One day have I been asking myself this question because I've had some freedom in my life. I've had some breakthroughs. And for the first time in my life, I'm feeling like, wow, I've done work. I have worked hard at growth and development in my life. And I've tried my best to um, be responsible for my side of living, whatever that looks like. I've heard it said, I don't know where I heard this, but I just got a glimpse of it, most likely on social media. But it was more, it might have been um, an interview with Gabor Mate. I think that's how you say his name. Forgive me if I don't say it right. And he said, I think someone in the crowd said to him, hey, I got some family issues. And he said, you need to take care of yourself. You need to discover you. And I thought that was really profound. And I just saw that clip. I didn't see much more of it. I didn't actually know the rest of what he said. Um, and I'm happy for that. And I know many of you are working on you, and I'm proud of you for it. I'm very committed to sharing pieces of my life, portions of my life, so that you can potentially see yourself there through something that I've said or an experience that I've had, and maybe that will give you something inspiration or just a little leg up to help you along your own personal journey. I am not a medical doctor. I'm not a professional, and I cannot give advice to you for, any psychological or health or medical things that you need. But I know what I can do, and I know I can share my own point of view and offer it to you and put it out there. If it resonates or not, I can't. It doesn't bother me because it will resonate for someone. And so it is here that I want to talk about this. What are you normalizing? It literally came up in a conversation with my mom and I yesterday, and it struck me so deeply. I just did a podcast on it. I'm wearing the same clothing and everything because I have to get this done because it's so beautiful to me. So the question is, what do we normalize? And where I'm bringing this to you is in my life, I am working towards this forward movement. So many of us are going forward. We're trying to do the very best we can with what we've been given in our lives. We have visions and goals and plans for where we're going and how we want to build our businesses and our family life and maybe it's just your personal growth and development. And maybe there's something blocking you or holding you back to the things that I just mentioned, blocking you from all in, from being really, really present in your business or as abundant as you want to be. And you just go, what is it? Well, for me, I I was today old when I learned this about myself. And that's why it's like fresh off the press and it's really beautiful. The question is, what do we normalize? What do I normalize? And I'm always going to share my experiences with you because that's all I have, actually. I just have what I've learned in my life and what I've been through. And again, see if you can find yourself here. But There's so many layers to this. I cannot begin to tell you how many layers there are to this question. What are you normalizing? And so forgive me if I just like kind of barf out this information because it's still so new and I don't care anymore. Um I don't. I've it's all gone. This care of, how it has to be perfect before I do it is like ridiculous. So, anyway, my notes. I'm going to read my notes and I'm going to just look off camera and all those different things. If you're viewing this, if you're in podcast, well then you're just going to hear me saying these things. Um so I was sharing with my mom and we were talking about our lives and we were talking about what was normal and what is normal now. So what was normal for us back then? And this is the question that you can ask yourself. What is normal for you now? And what was normal for you back then? And back then is up to you to decide. I don't even want to list it because it could be so many different contexts. But she and I were sharing and realized that, you know, the world that we normalized then and the world that we normalized now, those are light years, worlds apart. They aren't even in the same solar system. And we started talking about, because we're both recovering, we're both, in different spaces. If you've been following me for a while, I've had life experiences that um of relationships with people that are toxic. And this is from my family of origin, and it's been a lifelong, grueling, painful, uh eye-opening and awakening experience. My mom has been with me my whole life. She knows me very, very well, and I would say I know her very well. And my brother's been around too. But he wasn't in this conversation, and he's gonna love hearing this. What are you normalizing from your past? And what are you making normal from your past in your present? And how is that stopping you from living a life that is solid, that is good? I have, and people can take issue with me on this, but I haven't said, I don't like to say live your best life, because I think for so many of us, it feels so out of reach. And what people really want is 5 steps. Okay, well then tell me how to live my best life. And the thing that I won't be able to do for you is tell you that. I will be able to share what I normalized. I will be able to share some ways in which I was able to identify things, but I don't believe there's 5 ways to discover it or 3 ways to get out of being normalizing something. I just believe that you have to take with what you have right now. So if you are feeling overwhelmed by a toxic relationship or a relationship that's unhealthy, I want you to know it's one foot in front of the other. If you're in a relationship where your boundaries don't matter, what you say might as well be like talking into the wind. Um, this is for you. This is for you. So we were both comparing notes and we were just saying, hey, listen, like we needed to survive in this relationship. We needed to survive in this toxic relationship. And now that we've come out the other side and that we're healthy and we've repaired ourselves and we're repairing ourselves, there is this desire to return to the person that I was before. Now, you can't go to back to when you were 6 years old. No, I wouldn't want to be acting out in ways that I was 6 years old, but I surely want to be the person who envisions, who believes, who dreams, who's inspired, who believes that she's invincible, who believes that doesn't have a framework of betrayal or manipulation or failure, who doesn't believe that failure is failure. This girl believed that she could do all things. I want to go back to her. That's who I want to go back to. I want to go back to peace and calm. I want to go back to um, homeostasis, back to the moment before anxiety was present. I want to go back to the space where when my mom was carrying me in her uterus, in her womb, before then, when she wasn't anxious and tense and tight, I want to go back. I want to know that my nervous system can be regulated. Interestingly enough, I realized that those are the things that I want. And I didn't have those things. And as I said in a previous episode, I was in survivor mode, right? I was stuck in this kind of survivor mode because I had to try to make it through my day and my life. And even though I left my home and I was married, I still was in survivor mode. Not in my marriage, but I was in the daily interaction with my family of origin. And I was also in survivor mode in many ways that became highlit because I wasn't involved in my family of origin anymore. So when I got married, my whole life was like, and then I could just see like the spotlight of, oh, sorry, everybody, the spotlight of difference, right? Like if, that it was night and day, and I had committed to myself that I was going to do whatever I could to not live in the ways that I had lived and grew up with. And that created a lot of tension. And so I think that was my first moment of saying to myself and to my partner, I'm not going to normalize abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. I'm not normalizing it. I'm not normalizing, um, you know, gaslighting and all kinds of things. How do you move forward? And from normalizing the chaos and the pain and the eggshells of walking on when you're with somebody, when you're in a toxic relationship, like we have to first look at what the standard is. Because here's the thing I realized, and Mom and I were talking about this, it's like the law of attraction. What you put out comes back to you. And if that's the case, then if you are normalizing chaos and not stability, then you're going to be getting chaos. If you normalize um, health issues, I'm running ahead of myself, but wherever the standard is, that is the normalizing level that you will attract, um, or you will require whichever first comes. You'll require someone to be that, or you will attract it into your life in some way, whatever comes first. So I realized that I normalized digestive issues. Oh yeah, I always have those. I've always had them. I've always had them. That's what I would say. I'm always bloated. Always. Say this to my kids all the time. Like I could drink anything, like water, and I bloat. I can eat a nut and I get bloated. It's like I just get bloated. And what's interesting to me is that I speak the language around the normalization of it. Oh, yeah, that's always happening to me. Just been with me all these years. I've always had bowel problems. I've always had digestive issues. That's normal. And so I don't do anything about it. My body's not feeling balanced, right? I feel anxiety. I feel absolute exhaustion, but I've always been exhausted. I've always had adrenal problems, but I've always had adrenal problems. I normalize it by saying, I've always had this. And what I realized is I was managing the symptoms of those things. I was managing the symptom and not getting to the root. Like, why am I bloated? Like, what would be the reason for that? What is my body saying to me? If it's bloating, what is the cry? What's the conversation that needs to be had? If I have exhaustion, what's the conversation? How do I need to dialogue with my exhaustion in order to move forward and to understand it better? See, this is what I'm realizing is that when I think something is normal, I realize, oh my gosh, I normalized all kinds of things because I've always had it. So I normalized life being hard, that it takes, um, that living and working and doing is a grind and it's a hustle, that my body does not feel balanced, that it's anxiety is normal. Mindset. I've normalized my mindset. I've normalized the narrative and story that I tell myself. I normalized dysregulation. Now, all of these things happen to people. I would say they're common, but are they normal? Normal to living the solid life that I want? No, they're not helping me. And in fact, they're hurting me because I'm struggling with this inner tension of living my this incredible life that I have. And there's always this like it's just lurching. It's like there's this tension that's just pulling me back a little bit. It's pulling me back a little bit. And I realize it's because it's normal to give my power away to people, to circumstances. Hey, after all, you know, I did have 4 children. I One of the experiences that I've had in my life is mothering. And so as a mother with that life experience, they run the show when they're children. Not, you know what I mean? Like I'm meaning like, as babies, you're feeding them, you're practically dead from exhaustion. Um, but we normalize that even when they're not able to, um, even when they don't need to be breastfed anymore, even when they don't, we still normalize it. I've normalized lack and poverty, financial, emotional, relational. I've I've normalized personal poverty as in um, my mindset. I'm unworthy. I'm useless. I will never be X, Y, and Z. I'm lazy. I'm procrastinator. I'm clumsy. I'm stupid. Um, we we weren't rich, so we won't be rich. I wasn't rich, but I can't be now. We weren't good with money, so I won't be good with money. I'm not smart. This is my biggest one. Um, I'm not smart. And when I went to school, I normalized the fact that I was like a D. student. I was just trying to make it through. Now I look back at what was normalized and I realized that, and my brother called me the other day and he told me this, and he's like, we had to get out of our house in order for us to survive emotionally. We had to leave. Who cares about homework when your mental health is on the line? And I've normalized that by just simply saying, I don't retain things. I couldn't go back to school. Like I'm not there. I'm not smart enough. Belonging. I've normalized not belonging. Maybe you normalize those things. And I would add some things. Um, I was talking to a friend and he was saying to me like that he's dating and he's he's noticing that what's normal is like someone, well, what was normal for him was the uprooting and following the person that he was dating, because it's online dating. So maybe I follow them to another city or whatever, so that we can be closer, whatever. And he was just saying that he was normalizing that because it was filling a belonging and a need for his own belonging, but he was normalizing that there's a gaping hole there. It's normal to fill it. Is it normal for people to steal from you? Like energy, emotional, physical, financial, spiritual. What you experience in your life is actually your normal. And so the question is chronic health normal for you? Is being chronically ill normal? And you know how we normalize ourselves, which is really interesting. It's an interesting point to me because I've done this for my million years. Um, I get validated by people who are helping me normalize my situation. So I get validated by looking at my group of friends who are women and saying, oh, I'm so exhausted. And what I really want to begin to do is to not become aligned with that kind of normal because that was then and this is now. And so often I notice myself dragging in the Lori that managed that situation, that was juggling and working and all the different things, and I bring her into this other project or this other creative work I have, and it doesn't seem to fit. It's not working. I've been working on something and I just open it up here because, I can. And I'm doing it with this too. So be ready for it. I've been working on my team and I working on some guided journals. So what we're doing is we're creating out of these episodes, we're creating a small journal that you can look to for further assistance in what you've been hearing. So when you hear it, you go, okay, here's some of the high points that she said from her life experience. And here's some of the ways that I can maybe begin to relate, and you can write them down and you can do all those things. Well, what's interesting to me is that I brought in this really interesting desire for excellence. Hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. If we can normalize excellence, excellent. But to the point of not publishing? Sorry. Nope, that's sabotage. And I'm not normalizing sabotage anymore. I lived in an environment where we moved so many times. and job to job. And just as something beautiful was going to happen, bam, we were done. It was gone. That thing that we as children thought was going to be like the thing. Oh, something happened. And I began to normalize that in my life. Good things don't actually happen to me. Good things come here and they just about happen and then they go. That's what happens to good things. Good things don't happen to me. Normalized. To live a powerful life, full, whole, we got to look at the things that in our past we thought were normal, that were carrying us from the surviving that situation. We don't need them anymore. And as I said in this last episode, you know what? We can let those go. I can let those old lorries go because they don't need to be here. What I want to bring in is a normalization that I'm not normalizing these things anymore. I'm not normalizing chaos. Sorry. No. You know, the other thing I'm not normalizing is giving my power away. I do not want to give my power away anymore. And so now, I'm saying this because I have been doing it and I believe it. No, you're not taking my power. I do not live out of circumstantial power anymore. I live out of personal power and integrity and personal strength and groundedness. Because when life is chaotic and you find something stable, I gotta tell you, you actually want to blow that stability up because chaos is so it's got these cortisol spikes to it. And it almost can be addicting because if it's just calm and chill, what am I supposed to do? I got to be doing something. And the nervous system regulates and re-regulates, and it's very, very difficult. It's powerful to look at your life and say, what am I normalizing? Oh, I normalized chaos. And now I'm going to normalize stability. And I will not bring chaos into my life. And when it comes to me, I will not pick that up because it is abnormal for me to live in a chaotic life. It's abnormal for me to have digestive issues. It's abnormal for me to have chronic health problems. It's abnormal for me to believe that I will not be successful. I have to tell you, did you know we were wonderfully made? You were made with intention. You didn't come out saying, oh, gee, I'm not going to be successful. Most little kids have a idea of what their life's going to be like. And it's going to be like, it's superpower, superhuman, toughest, strongest, baddest. And somehow the world tells us who we actually are. And then we get that all screwed up and now we normalize. Let's move away from that. I'm not normalizing that I need to be validated by people who are exhausted. I'm normalizing that I'm awake. I'm normalizing that I'm alive. I'm I am normalizing that it's my birthright to have abundance and joy and calm and peace and happiness. Okay, life can be challenging, but not to dominate my day. No, because now that's circumstantial power and I'm not doing it. Somebody calls me in the middle of a work day. Okay, but if I pick up and there's problems, I'm not carrying that. I'm not stopping my work and I am not going to carry that heaviness so that it impacts me, when I'm spending time with Dave in the evening and I tell him the thing that was so heavy over back here. I'm not letting that happen, that circumstance. Moving in to this understanding that higher standards, yeah, they influence everything. And I will make a higher standard for normal. It's so cool when we can think about this. So the question is, what are you normalizing? If you are struggling in your life, in work, in business, school, relationships, what have you normalized? You're going to find it if you look. Trust me. And I believe that with the level of life that I have and all the different layers of life, if I look, I'll always find something. I don't know if anybody can actually say I um like that they know every space that they normalize. I don't know. I can say though, it's important to be consistent, to not normalize gossip, to not normalize speaking badly of somebody else, to not normalize when someone says, um, are you worried about that project going out? Oh, a little bit. No, don't normalize it. Now, I'm not saying pretend it doesn't exist. Find your workarounds, but normalizing that what you are working on or working to is the beauty of the results of who you are as a person. Normalize that it's normal to be grounded and awake and centered and alive. And it's normal for you to to feel clean. Hmm. What are you normalizing? First place to look, what was being modeled to you in the situation? So if you find something that, like in work, for example, you can say, okay, yeah, let's do work because I have an example of that. So what I realized I was normalizing was, um, and I've shared this on the podcast before. I just can't remember what episode or what it was, but so I remember saying, um, like I can't do social media. Social media is my block. I remember saying, um, I have a fear. I have a fear of um, being in front of people and then being judged. I normalized that. That came with me. That actually was the core of that was in grade 5, 6, and 7. And with the culminating the cumulative factor of those years, and then in grade 7, I was at the chalkboard having this incredible um, interaction with my teacher, and it just devastated me. It was the worst thing that had happened to me at that time. And I believed that when I spoke to you, that I was at that chalkboard, that teacher was standing there. I was in front of all my peers and no one was able to help me. I normalized that. And I brought it all the way through to that moment in time. So much so that I wouldn't say things. I wouldn't post on social media. I wouldn't do Instagram stories. I'd be like, well, who cares about my regular life? No one's going to care about my regular life. Why would anybody want to know that I'm driving down the road? Why would anybody think I have something good to say? No one's going to watch my story. No one's going to like the fact that this water is this color and why. Maybe I'll do an Instagram story on why. But my point is, I normalized that belief and it stopped me from the flow of abundance. What are you normalizing and what's stopping your flow? Just remember that you don't have to settle for abuse, for ignorance, narcissism, for silent treatments, for suppression, for lack, for loneliness, for anxiety, for health problems, for emotional issues, for not being seen, for no boundaries. Stop. It's time to rise up. It's time to say, no, I wasn't able to set boundaries when I was a kid. That's why I can't set boundaries now. And I'm going to normalize the fact that I'm going to set a boundary or two and I'm going to see what happens. It's it's normal in my family for everybody to abuse my boundaries. And then my worthiness gets wrapped up and I feel like I'm not belonging because everybody silent treats me and all the comments that they make are brutal. And I don't feel safe in my family. That's normalizing the fact that you can't set a boundary and stick to it. So now set a boundary, hold it. Yeah, you're going to have some work to do, but normalizing something and moving and shifting time, shifting patterns, it takes some time. You've got this. What are you normalizing? Thank you for listening. You can find me at www.loriclarkmedia.com. That's LORICLARKEMEDIA.com. You can go to my socials. My Instagram is at The Lori Clark Show. And you can go to my new Instagram channel called Simply Gratitude Life. Thank you. You're important, you're special, and let's start normalizing stability and love and empowerment, being heard, love, self-care. Oh, I could go on. We're in it together. Thank you. You are valuable. Have a fabulous day.